Let's start in Africa with Blinken visiting Rwanda. Blinken raises concerns about human rights with President Kagame. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on governments to stop backing armed groups in the troubled Democratic Republic of Congo. He made his comments during a trip to Rwanda, which is accused of supporting the M23, a militia group behind a recent resurgence of deadly violence in the east of the DRC. Let's see what come out in their discussions. Again in Ukraine, what's there? Crimea air base badly damaged, satellite images show. Satellite images appear to show major damage and a number of destroyed Russian warplanes at a Crimea airbase following explosions there this week. The Saki base in the west of Russian-ruled Crimea was rocked by a string of blasts on Tuesday, killing one person. The base's runways appear intact, but at least 8 aircraft seem damaged or destroyed with several craters visible. Ukraine has not claimed responsibility, but this new evidence suggests the possibility of a targeted attack. It also dispels Russia's denial that any of its aircraft were damaged. The images, from the US-based Planet Labs, show large areas of scorched earth left from fires that erupted. Most of the damaged or destroyed aircraft are in a specific area of the base where a large number of planes were parked out in the open away from the cover of hangars. 2 types of fighter jets, including Su-24MS, have been damaged by explosions, along with 2 buildings nearby. How the base was damaged, or by what, is still unconfirmed. William Alberk, from defense think tank IISS, has told the BBC that 2 buildings may have been used to temporarily store weapons, and would have been targeted for maximum impact on the fighter jets parked nearby. The base's runway, and permanent weapons storage sites located further away from the planes, seem untouched. Mr. Alberk says it is likely that cluster munitions were used, but Ukraine doesn't have the kind of missiles needed to carry out this kind of attack. If Ukraine is responsible, he suggests they used repurposed S-300 missiles, typically for surface-to-air attacks, or anti-ship Neptune missiles. But Louise Jones, head of intelligence at McKinsey Intelligence, says the satellite images aren't conclusive enough. If makeshift missiles were used, Ms. Jones says there's no evidence they missed any potential targets. To be that accurate at that range with possibly an experimental munition is unlikely, she suggests. Another scenario would be a sabotage operation by Ukrainian special forces or paramilitary groups. Ms. Jones says this isn't impossible, but again highly unlikely. A third option, she adds, is that the explosions were an accident caused by a fuel leak, or ammunition exploding in one of the 2 storage sheds. Russia has blamed the blasts on this latter option and said fire safety rules were being flouted on the base. The before and after images from Planet Labs, which monitors hundreds of satellite feeds over Ukraine, are the first independent confirmation that the base may have been damaged. Until now, details about the extent of the explosion's impact have been scarce. Ukraine has not claimed responsibility, and its defense minister suggested that careless Russian soldiers could be to blame. I think that Russian military guys in this airbase ruined their very simply known rule: don't smoke in dangerous places, said Oleksiy Reznikov. That's it. Ukraine's Air Force said about a dozen Russian warplanes were destroyed, though. UN alarm as Ukraine nuclear power plant shelled again. More shelling of Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been reported, with Ukraine and Russia again blaming each other for the attack. Each side said there were 10 hits on the plant's administrative office and fire station on Thursday. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres warned the fighting could lead to disaster at Europe's largest nuclear plant, seized by Russia in early March. Ukraine warned that Russia may provoke the world's worst nuclear accident. On Wednesday, foreign ministers from the G7 group of industrialized nations said Russia must immediately hand back control of the plant to Kiev. The facility and its surrounding area in central eastern Ukraine saw shelling last week, with Russia and Ukraine also accusing each other over that attack. Ukraine says Russia has turned the site into a military base, launching attacks from there, knowing that Ukrainian forces are unlikely to retaliate. Moscow denies the claim. Russia using nuclear plant as army base. Ukraine. So how close was nuclear plant attack to catastrophe? In a statement on Thursday, Ukraine's nuclear agency Enerhoatom said that Russian invaders again shelled the Zaporizhzhia plant and territories near the nuclear facility. It said an administrative office near the welding area was hit, and the storage of radiation sources. There was a small fire on some nearby grass, but no injuries. Enerhoatom added that the fire station located near the plant was also targeted. Because of the shelling, it was impossible to change the personnel after their shift, so they had to continue work overtime. But the situation was currently under control, Enerhoatom said. The Russian-installed officials issued a mirroring statement, accusing Ukraine of carrying out the shelling. They said Ukrainian forces were using multiple launch rocket systems and heavy artillery. The claims by each of the sides have not been independently verified. Meanwhile, UN Secretary-General Guterres warned, urgent agreement is needed at a technical level on a safe perimeter of demilitarization to ensure the safety of the area. Mr. Guterres was speaking ahead of a UN Security Council crisis meeting over the issue in New York City. In Kiev, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned that Russia may provoke the world's worst nuclear accident bigger than Chernobyl. He was referring to the 1986 disaster at the Soviet-built nuclear plant north of Kiev. Mr. Zelensky said that such an accident would be tantamount to Russia using its nuclear weapons without conducting an actual nuclear strike. What's other news here now? Presidents Emmanuel Macron of France and Vladimir Putin of Russia have not been in telephone contact for the past 2 months. A Kremlin spokesman said France is now considered an unfriendly country and discussions between the two leaders are unnecessary. The last time the two men spoke was on the 28th of May. They were sharing the line with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and the problem was the fate of Ukrainian soldiers taken prisoner by Russian forces. Before that, Macron and Putin spoke on the phone in early May, in March, and 5 times in the course of February as tension mounted over a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine. Emmanuel Macron met Putin face-to-face in Moscow on the 7th of February, 2 weeks before Russian troops entered Ukraine. Critics of the French president say Macron's high-profile diplomatic efforts failed to prevent war. Macron supporters say he is now one of the few outsiders with a view into Putin's mindset at this crucial time. The Russian declaration that France is an unfriendly country is a reaction to French participation in the organization of international sanctions in reprisal for the Ukrainian invasion. France joins the United States, Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Japan, Taiwan and South Korea, as well as the other 26 member states of the European Union. In the category of unfriendly states. Meanwhile, in his efforts to strengthen ties with remaining allies, Vladimir Putin told Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Friday that he was hoping to sign an agreement to boost trade and economic ties. I hope that today we will be able to sign a relevant memorandum on the development of our trade and economic ties, Putin said as the two leaders sat down for talks in the Black Sea resort city of Sochi. Coming on Barack and Michelle Obama. Barack and Michelle Obama reportedly closed deal for $11.75 million Martha's Vineyard estate. The home has on a 29-acre estate, has 7 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms. Former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama have purchased a 7-bedroom, 9-bathroom home in Edgartown, Massachusetts, according to reports. The price for the 29-acre estate was $11.75 million, public records show. The property was purchased by a trust represented by attorney Ronald Rappaport, a partner at Reynolds, Rappaport, Kaplan and Hackney, according to records made available Wednesday. The trust is reportedly tied to the Obamas, but Mansion Global could not confirm the connection. Mr. Rappaport did not return requests for comment. The Obamas have summered on the Vineyard for years, and they aren't the only politicians who are fond of the coastal New England area. The Clinton family has spent time there, and former Secretary of State and Massachusetts Senator John Kerry bought a home there in 2017. Redgate Farm, the former estate of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, is currently on the market there for $65 million, according to LandVest. The home was designed in America again. Jobless claims has rise by 14,000 last week. The increase came after the prior week was revised downward by 12,000. The increase came after the prior week was revised downward by 12,000. The increase came after the prior week was revised downward by 12,000. With one more jobs report and CPI print on the docket ahead of the Fed's Monetary Policy Committee's next scheduled session. It may be premature to say definitively how large of a rate hike is on the table for September, said Jason Pride, Chief Investment Officer of Private Wealth at Glenmead Trust. Though as of now the debate would likely be over 50 bps versus 75 bps. Separately, consumer confidence improved by 0.4% in July, a reversal of the downward trend over the past 12 months, according to Morning Consult's Index of Consumer Sentiment. On Friday, the University of Michigan is set to release its monthly consumer sentiment survey. With one more jobs report and CPI print on the docket ahead of the Fed's Monetary Policy Committee's next scheduled session, it may be premature to say definitively how large of a rate hike is on the table for September, said Jason Pride, Chief Investment Officer of Private Wealth at Glenmead Trust. Though as of now the debate would likely be over 50 bps versus 75 bps. Yes. Separately, consumer confidence improved by 0.4%. in July, a reversal of the downward trend over the past 12 months, according to Morning Consult's Index of Consumer Sentiment. On Friday, the University of Michigan is set to release its monthly consumer sentiment survey.